Hello again. I wanted to show you how well my chainsaw is finally working after doing several things to it. At some points almost giving up, putting it down from frustration, looking at it some more. So anyway, let's get right to it. And finally, there you have it. I discovered a couple things. The tube that provides air to the fuel tank was pinched by the plastic cover of the chainsaw. And so I clipped that, moved the location of that tube so that it couldn't get pinched. It's been that way a long time. I think that's been a problem. And then the other was I had to replace the take-up tube to the fuel tank that comes up and then comes through the body and into the carburetor. And they don't make it anymore, so I bought a aftermarket one, and it did fit the press fit hole through the body of the chainsaw through the tank, and it's sealed. It doesn't lose pressure or vacuum. But it was too long, and I had to loop it around the choke lever on the carburetor, and in doing so, when I put the air filter on, it would smash it and kink it. So I was getting these weird results of I'd tune it and then it would just die all of a sudden when idling. When I would rev it up and then let go to go back to idle, it would just go right down to nothing. It would die. And all the fiddling around with the adjustment screws didn't do any good. And I was getting ready to do a vacuum test on the crankcase, but I decided to investigate a little more. So I took the cover off, ran it again, and I took off the air filter. Then it was running fine. And I'm thinking, well, maybe the air filter's clean, but maybe it's putting a little bit of a little more vacuum to make it richer. So I adjusted it with that and the cover on, and it was still just dying. So I tested it, and I just left the cover off, but I attached the air filter back on and ran it, and it was doing the same thing, dying out. And then when I'd loosen the screws on that air filter, then it would run right again. Then I looked in there and I saw as that thing pushed in, when it was tightened, it was pinching the fuel line off. So it was getting enough to just idle, but when I would rev it up, it couldn't supply enough gas to keep up with it. And then when it would settle back down, it didn't have enough pressure to force it past that pinch, and it would die. So I didn't cut the length of it before because it has an end to it that you can see it's fatter at the end of it. I thought it was thickened to grip onto the elbow that goes onto the carburetor. Maybe so, but regardless, I couldn't have that much length in there because it couldn't go straight up to it. It had to loop around, and in that loop is when it would kink. So I decided, well, I can get another one of these. So I just clipped it, made it go straight into it, and that solved it all. And so finally, after that, and buying a used carburetor and buying another bar oil pump from another chainsaw, a different model, and transferring those seals onto mine because those are also obsolete. I just couldn't find, two of them were unique in it, and so just perseverance. It's running about as good as it ever has. Once in a while it still dies when you set it down when it's idling. I think it's an inherent thing with the carburetor. It always did that, even when it was much younger. After I first bought it and did a lot of cutting, it just would occasionally die when I'd set it down on the ground. But I think it's running as good as it can for what it is, being from 1985. And it's got more life in it though, so that'll be a good limbing saw for me when we get onto our Tennessee adventure in a few years. Okay, bye for now.